All 9 episodes of What If are now streaming on Disney Plus. This is the first animated show from the Marvel Studios banner, and essentially is a story of many stories that are created because of the many universes due to the timeline breach at the end of Loki season 1. And essentially, you're seeing how those universes play out their stories and the heroes that are in them. All of this is being watched by Watu, the Watcher, voiced by Wright, who cannot interfere in the events that take place, but he can merely be an observer and guide you through these stories. It's very clear that whatever happens, he just has to watch it play out, no pun intended. The potential to do whatever you want with What If is honestly endless. The show talks about it in the opening monologues and the credits. This universe is of endless possibilities, and frankly speaking, there are. In fact, it could be, especially if you're like a comic book writer, and there is a comic book series based on this, but especially if you're a writer in this universe, where you already have about, 25 movies in, and you have multiple shows now, and you've created this sort of, connection with all of these characters, the potential to now take all of that and twist them around into whatever you want them to be. It's honestly a writer's dream. You could do anything. Literally, it's endless. And for the most part, What If very much steers into that skid because you get some very unique stories, some things that play out differently. And for example, you might see a certain character die instead of another one, be like, okay, what if in the version that we know, in the world that we know, this happened, but now this is what's happening in this world. What happens if that happens? And so the consequences of that, whether they be very dark and twisted or be something a little more lighthearted and fun, there are some interesting aspects in all of that. Now, the show starts us off pretty simple. Episode 1 is essentially if Captain America the First Avenger played out very differently, and that Steve Rogers is not the one who got the super serum. It was Peggy Carter. Haley Atwell reprises her role, except this time in voice animation, and it's interesting to see that dynamic of it play out. And more than anything else, it's just awesome for the fact that they brought Haley Atwell back, and she still is very much committed to playing this character. But the first episode was pretty simple. It's basically the first Avenger movie. It just plays out with Captain Carter in the center of it. And so when it started off, I was like, okay, it's nice, but it feels simple. Like we're not really going into the creative space yet, which is fair. When you're starting off, you want to take your time, sort of ease people into it. Once you got to, I would say, episode 3, which is where you see a world where all the Avengers died before they could even be assembled, essentially a play on Fury's big week. When you have that happen, that's when I knew things were going to get very interesting, because that's when I knew they were starting to use a little more of that endless potential that they had on their hands. And also you could do that. The thing about this show is that sometimes those paths that it takes when heroes die, it can be affecting. There's going to be fans who are going to be like, oh my god, you killed our favorite characters and all that. But again, it's a multiverse. Can happen. I mean, you can see a character die multiple times in this, and you do. In fact, I think Tony Stark died, 5 times in this thing? That dude got put through the freaking ringer there. Of my favorite episodes, I would say episode 4 and episode 8 were my favorites. They were the ones that really just gave into some of the weirder aspects of it, and they got very creative with some of the visuals too. All the stuff in episode 4 where Doctor Strange is trying to become more and more powerful to save Christine and basically, stop her from dying, because in the alternate version, she's the one who died in the accident. All of that stuff was very heartbreaking, and it was pretty well done. I wanted to address the heartbreaking aspect of it because there are a lot of storylines in this that go to some very dark places, and I was kind of impressed because there are certain storytelling risks that are on play there, and the fact that they let those happen in the way that they did, I think it made for some very liberating experiences, I think, in terms of just the writing of them. Because there are certain things that they do which the movies haven't done yet. I don't know if they will do anytime soon. I think there is a sort of aspect to it where it's like, I don't know when we're going to start killing off some more beloved heroes or something like that. And the fact that these shows, like this show in particular, is much more free with wanting to do those things and taking those decisions I thought that was very interesting. I would be remiss, however, if I didn't talk about T'Challa in this. This is Chadwick Boseman's final performance, and the last time we're ever gonna hear or even see him as the character. This was heartbreaking. Every episode in which he showed up, which are quite a few actually, were emotional experiences. The last time you get to see him in this season, it's in a more action-packed environment, but it was still like, oh my god, this is the last time you're getting to see him as this character, and it was tough. Episode 2 in particular, where you basically see him be Star-Lord in that universe and him fighting alongside Yondu and saving the galaxy, that was pretty awesome. You get to see some really good surprises over there as well, like a Thanos who was talked out of doing things like, causing Infinity War and stuff like that, because T'Challa was reasonable. Like, there are certain things that are really great. And I liked a lot of aspects of What If, especially, like I said, the latter half of the season, especially when you got to stuff like Marvel Zombies in episode 5, and then you got episode 7 where Thor is a party freak, and then episodes 8 and 9, which I'm not going to talk too much about because there were spoilers in there, but as things eventually started to converge, because you knew that was going to happen at some point in this show, once that began to go down, I was pretty satisfied with those events. That being said, there were shortcomings along the way. I do think What If has a lot of great aspects to it, but there were aspects of it which were also flawed, and I was a bit on and off on. I talked about some of the more creative stuff that they did, especially in terms of the animation in episodes 4 and 8 and stuff like that, but there was also some inconsistency to the animation I found throughout. While there were certain things that looked incredible, and there's one action sequence towards the season finale which is brilliant and one of the most creative, visually speaking, things I've seen in the entire MCU till date, there were also points of it where I felt like it was a bit blocky. Like, it felt like they were trying to, especially with the character animations, where it just felt like there was certain emotions they were going for and those didn't quite come forward, especially in scenes which require some very emotional beats to be presented of these characters. And that was also enhanced by the fact that at times those voice performances, a lot of them were very good. I should give special mention to Jeffrey Wright as Watu, who was the Watcher, and he did a really great job. He, along with Boseman, was one of my favorite performances voice-wise of the entire season. But there were certain characters who they brought back the actors who played those characters in the movies to voice, and I feel like at times those voice performances were not as great as they could have been, because it kind of felt like the actors were reading the lines rather than having to actually act those roles out. I feel like this is unfortunate because the actors in question, I'm not going to specifically name the names, they were very good in the movies, and they have been good in the movies so far. But then you're watching this show and you're seeing them in the animation medium, and it just came off as a bit blocky. And I feel like that was unfortunate because, again, at the end of the day, voice acting is the kind of thing where it's like, it's not just you read lines, there's a whole performance to it. And that's hard for a lot of people to know. It's not easy to just do that. There are some performances that were great, like Benedict Cumberbatch, who reprises Strange, and he's really good as the performance. And I thought Haley Atwell was great as Captain Carter. And in a movie connected role, I thought Lake Bell as Black Widow was great, but then Lake Bell has experience with voice acting, so that's what I meant. You don't need the actors back to play these characters. For instance, in the Clone Wars series, it's not Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor voicing Anakin and Obi-Wan, it's different actors. So yeah, some aspects of that could have worked a lot better. I thought some episodes could have been paced better. I think some episodes could have had a better, they could have tried to work on certain aspects of, being more expanded upon than what we saw. Like, for instance, you see characters that have different versions of them, and you can't get enough time to care about them because it's now the episode's over and we're moving on to a different universe now. So I think certain things like that, those could have been bettered. Overall, I still think What If was a fun ride for the most part. I think there's still a lot to enjoy. I'm very interested in where they go with season 2. And I think there is a lot more potential in here that is yet to be explored. So I'm very curious to see what happens. I'm going to give What If season 1 a B. Like I said, overall, I did enjoy it. I think certain things could have worked a lot better. And like I said, I did enjoy a lot of the episodes following the first few. But yeah, just a few more things, a few more tweaks here and there, and I think we'll be golden next time. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.